The better trained you are, the less likely you will find yourself in a world of hurt when a crisis comes your way. Hi, welcome to this video. Doug Barry here, Battle Ready Coalition. I appreciate you being with me. Today we're going to address 12 key items. 12 key items, gear. So important for all of us to have. Before we break down the gear, I want to say this. There is no particular priority to what we're going to be talking about here. It will be determined largely on your needs, on the things that you have to deal with, your circumstances. So obviously, if you have to leave your home and go to another location, that really changes up what you're going to need to have with you. But if you're in your home and you're able to tap into your resources there at your house, the different things that you've stored up on, well, that's obviously going to change, what priorities you have to be looking at. But in general, there are key things we need to be looking at. In our Battle Ready Emergency Preparedness course that you can find through brcoalition.com, we talk about 5 key areas: food, water, medical, shelter, and defense. You can get more if you click the link in the description and look into that course. But right here, right now, let's look at these 12 key things that are very important for us to have for pretty much any circumstance, any situation. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I encourage you to subscribe, share, get this word out to other people. We need to be helping each other. This is a real act of charity and love to help other people be better prepared. The first item I want to address is power. I've got one example of a solar-powered battery station here, the Jackery 1000. There's a variety of them on the market, obviously different brands, different degree of power. You can get a 240 watt, you can get a 2,200 watt, Bluetti. There's a number of different power stations out there, but having backup power is key. It's critical for a lot of different things. You're running your refrigerator, your freezer, making sure you're running any medical equipment that you might need. It might be imperative for you that you have medications refrigerated. Therefore, you're going to have backup power in case your power goes down for a storm or a grid down situation of some kind. And remember, this can be something that happens because of a thunderstorm. We're not talking about someone hacking into the power grid and shutting the grid down in the country. Though that is a threat, that's a possibility. But we're talking about even a severe storm that blows through and shuts your power down for a couple of days. You can lose all your food in your freezer, your refrigerator. So these are items to be thinking about. You can click the link in the description below. We've got another video out that addresses more directly different types of solar-powered battery stations. Next item on the list, communication. Communicating with one another, especially in a crisis, is a pretty serious situation. It could be a flat tire on the side of the road. Do you have power for your phone? Can you make that call to your loved one? Can you call for help to come and change that flat tire if you're not able to do that? Now, you might just be using a regular standard operating walkie-talkie, depending upon, again, your circumstances, or maybe you go to a ham radio style. So again, communication is important. Understand how you would do that. And if all communication goes down, how will you communicate with your loved ones? What pre-arranged situations have you discussed with them? Where you're going to meet? If you can't meet at this place or that place, is there a third or fourth location, shelter, where you're going to meet up depending upon what might be happening? Number 3, a multi-tool or standard operating pocket knife. There's so many things you can do with items like this. With the multi-tool, of course, you've got everything from, the pair of pliers right here. You've got a number of blades, saw, screwdriver, different type of screwdriver, flat, Phillips. This is a very, very important item to have on hand and close by. A lot of little things can be done. A lot of little problems can be solved, and even big ones, with something like a good multi-tool. In addition, a good pocket knife. A good pocket knife that might have on it, for example, a glass breaker right here, a belt cutter right here, serrated edge right here for sawing. Having the right kind of pocket knife that fits your particular situation is a good idea, all right? This has a little clip on it. I can put this on the inside of my pocket. I can clip this to the visor in my car. So there's a variety of different things you can do with these tools, but they are very important to have. 4th item would be a survival knife and a survival hatchet. These smaller items like this can fit easily in a bug-out bag, an emergency bag, go bag you'd have in your vehicle, which is a good idea to have. But this, again, great idea for whatever you might need for, again, a tool. Now, some will look at these things as weapons, and of course they can be used as that, but we're thinking primarily as a good tool for what you might need if you're caught in the wilderness, you need to chop something, you need to cut something, you want good quality survival hatchet and survival knife. Number 5, one of my favorite, and I think one of the most important, is a good flashlight. A variety of good flashlights, a variety of good lighting in general. So whether it's a flashlight or a headlamp, and I like rechargeable batteries on all of these. That's my preference. If you're gonna have batteries that you have to change out, that's fine, but you're gonna have to have backup batteries. Of course, if you have rechargeable batteries such as this one, the headlamp, all of these recharge, I can use them off of the power station. And the power station can be recharged off of solar panels. So you're filling gaps, you're constantly being able to acquire the light that you need. This is a 1500 lumen. It's a nice one. It can also serve as a weapon if you need it. Got a good gnarly front here to hit somebody with if you have to. You don't want to, but if you have to. There's a 500 lumen here. I like to keep this in my pocket. I got a 300 lumen. I even got a 250 lumen. This is a nice little one because this little end slides out right here, and there's your charging port right there. So what I like about these, again, rechargeable batteries is everything's contained. You don't have to worry about changing your battery out. And again, keeping light on you, keeping it near you, quick access to it, easily accessible items, EAI, one of my favorite phrases, is important. I'm going to encourage you to click the link in the description below. Go on out and get your free ultimate guide for Catholic preparedness, spiritually and physically. We all need to be thinking how spiritually we get ready and physically we get ready. So again, click that link in the description below. Get yourself going on that. It's free. Number 6, water filter. Some way to filter water. Water is imperative. We can go 3, maybe 4 days before we're in serious trouble without water. People get dehydrated after 1 day of being sick. Consider how important it is that we have drinkable water or the access to filter water so that we can have drinkable water at all times. Having a good water filter with you, something like this little Sawyer Mini, this is estimated to be able to filter up to 100,000 gallons of water. It's used in third world countries. It's got a great track record behind it. Highly, highly encourage you to have little filters like this nearby. Keep them with you in your go bag in your vehicle, around you at home, so that in a crisis, if your tap water shut off, you don't have access to it, you have access to filter water with something as simple as a water filter like the Sawyer Mini. Number 7, heat. We need to be able to create heat, fire. We have to boil water sometimes. We have to cook food. Whatever the situation is, having access to heat is important. Now, I'm a big fan of the redundancy rule. You may have heard of this. 2 is 1, 1 is none. In other words, 2 forms of heat. For example, I've got matches, little waterproof kit right here. You know, it's a nice little gasket, rubber gasket seal. There's a little bit of tinder on the inside here. They give you a little bit of cotton. It's going to help you a little bit. I like to add to that in my go bag with some cotton balls, dipped in some Vaseline and with some thick Vaseline throughout it. Great way to start a little fire. And then these waterproof matches. And of course, the striking plate is right there on the side. So having matches would be 1. Having a cigarette lighter is number 2. So 2 is 1, 1 is none. You might lose 1. You might have to give 1 away. I like to add to that little redundancy rule. 2 is 1, 1 is none, but I like 3 or 4. So having a variety of ways to provide heat, fire is important. Number 8 might be an overlooked item for a lot of people, but it's pretty important. If you've got the tool of a knife, you've got the tool of a multi-tool with a knife, you've got a pocket knife. When that blade gets dull, obviously that tool becomes less usable. It also becomes more dangerous. Dull tools can be a greater danger for obvious reasons. So knife sharpeners, variety of sizes, variety of shapes. This larger one has a couple of locations here and here to sharpen knives. You can also sharpen scissors right here in this middle part. Good sturdy handle, little rubber grip on it. I like that one. I also like the smaller one, easy to throw in a bag. This is a little larger. Obviously, you're not gonna maybe carry this in your go bag as much. Might be something you keep around your house. And you've got this little doodad here, which is pretty handy for sharpening the serrated edge of your knife. So this is a good item to have on hand. If your blades get dull, again, not only do they become dangerous, they become really not as effective in what you need them for. Number 9, you need to be able to cook some food. You can eat right out of a can, that's fine. You don't have to cook food, but it's a good idea to be able to. And it's a nice idea to be able to. Having a cook stove such as this here, you're gonna have different varieties to pick from. Some run off of butane, some run off of little kerosene cans. And if you're not gonna use a cook stove or something that's, kerosene or butane driven, of course, you're gonna need to be able to start a fire, and have some way to create some little campfire type situation. Now, if you're in certain situations where you don't want to draw attention because of the light, of the fire, then you can create little rocket type stoves where you're using bricks. And we'll do videos on that in the future where you can keep the fire contained so it doesn't show so much, and it does limit the exposure that you have if you need to keep a lower profile. Number 10, also very critical, med kit. Now, we've got a couple different versions here. This is a general, what's called boo-boo kit or a cut and scrape kit, different titles people use for it. It's got a variety of things in it. Now, what I keep in here, I'm going to keep things like even, Benadryl, Claritin, things like this for allergies. I'm going to keep, a variety of bandages, gauze, Band-Aids, different types, different sizes, just general stuff, again, for minor cuts, scrapes, bruises, allergies, things of that nature. But then I also want to keep with me a trauma kit. This is going to have a tourniquet. This is going to have more serious equipment, pressure bandages, things like that. Because you never know when you have to deal with a laceration, a gunshot wound, a knife wound, maybe a car accident. So having a good med kit and a trauma kit, great and important pieces of your kit, your gear. Number 11, what you're wearing on your body and on your feet. Clothing, support equipment. If it's wintertime and you're driving to church, for example, and you're dressed for church, and so you've got your nice dress shoes on, maybe ladies, you got your high heels on, and you're wearing a dress or skirt, and then you get stranded on the side of the road for some reason, and you got to walk home. What are you wearing? Do you have any backup clothes in the car? Do you have any backup clothes to throw on? Maybe you might even need some long john underwear. Maybe you need to make sure you're throwing on some good footwear in addition to some long pants, long sleeve shirt, stocking cap. Maybe you're going to go so far as to have a good pair of boots, some good utility boots that you can handle that are waterproof. Think about that. If you have to walk even a mile in high heel shoes or dress shoes, maybe it's rougher terrain because you're out somewhere on a back road on the way home or to and from some location, that can do a lot of damage to your feet if you don't have the right footwear. In addition to the footwear and the clothing, you also want to be thinking about a good pair of gloves. Keeping a good pair of work gloves in your go bag, in your glove box nearby is important for a variety of reasons. One, you got to protect your hands from the elements. Again, if you've got cold weather, a situation like that, you're going to want to protect your hands because they can function better. But you also want to protect your hands from cuts and scrapes and slivers. In a crisis situation, imagine your water's been shut off. Imagine you're working in the yard, you're cutting firewood, for example. You get a serious splinter or a serious cut. Maybe you can't go and just turn on the water because it's not working now. So you're limited on even washing out the wound. So preventing the wounds is what you want to try to do. Number 12, last but not least, is a form of defense, protection. We've got to take care of ourselves. Remember, in a crisis situation, there are bad people out there that will do bad things. Desperate people will do desperate things. It doesn't even have to be a crisis situation. There are people out there who cooperate with evil. We want to be prepared to protect ourselves and our loved ones and anybody else that God may entrust to our path that we have been called to protect in some way. Now, how do we do that? I always say, number one, we got to learn some basic fighting skills. You don't have to be Bruce Lee or Chuck Norris, but learning some basic fighting skills. And we have other videos on that. The way you stand in a fight, the way you use your hands, hand to hand and so forth. Those are important to learn. But items and gear to have on hand, pepper spray or bear spray of some sort, OC spray, pepper gel, variety of different styles that are out there, stun guns. There's all types of different areas of stun and spray and OC and such that you can look into. There's different sizes. For example, something you hold in the palm of your hand. So you can be walking through the parking lot. Take that out of your purse, for example, ladies, and have it in the palm of your hand if you're in a serious situation. It's nighttime, it's evening, you've got to walk any kind of a distance. Don't have it in your purse where you have to take even 5 or 10 seconds to dig it out. Those 5 or 10 seconds are very important. But if you have it in the palm of your hand already and someone springs an ambush on you, you're already in a position where you can deploy that spray. Another important thing to consider is a firearm. Having a firearm with you, making sure that you are well trained in the firearm, knowing what you're doing with the firearm, knowing the 4 basic rules of a firearm. And there are 4 basic rules. You could say they're like the 4 commandments of guns to make sure that you are staying safe. But make sure that you, if you go the route of a firearm, train for it. And don't train just once. Firearms are not a one and done situation. There should be ongoing training to become more proficient in dealing with a variety of situations where you might have to use a firearm as a form of self-defense. So remember, these are items that you really want to be thinking through. Now, I want to say this though. You could have all these items and more, and there are a lot more we could be looking at. These are 12, I think, key important pieces to have. There's more we can build on this, but having a closet full, a room full, a house full of gear doesn't necessarily solve all the problems. It helps, but training with it, that's key. Understanding how these things operate, understanding how to sharpen a blade, how to operate a cook stove with a propane container, how to make sure you can use these water filters and containers to hold that water, making sure you understand how to handle a firearm. These are all important pieces. So not only do I encourage you to be thinking through and then acting upon by acquiring these pieces and more that you need, but make sure you're training with them. That is critical. So remember, click the link in the description below. Go on out and get your free download, The Ultimate Catholic Guide to Preparedness, physically and spiritually. Be ready for what's happening in our world now and what looks like it's coming. Remember, hope is found with a plan of action in the face of a crisis. Be better prepared, body, mind, and soul. God bless you and strengthen you in this fight. I look forward to seeing you again soon.